Welcome to the Disrupt Education Podcast. I'm Peter Hostrasser. Thanks so much for being here. I am continuing the Class of 2022 series. I have Lexi O'Leary here with me today. Lexi, thank you so much for hanging out today.
Thank you for having me.
It's been a crazy year. We're going to get into that, a crazy couple years. But let's start with you just kind of telling about who you are and what you're up to these days.
Well, I just graduated Stagg High School. I had my graduation on Sunday, and now I'm just finishing up in Illinois, and I'm going to be moving to Florida for college.
Where are you going to school?
I'm going to St. Petersburg College.
Any idea, are you studying something in general or just getting some basics out of the way?
I think I'm going to be doing business, but I want to do sports business, so hopefully my plan is to do the first 2 years at St. Petersburg and then possibly transfer to Tampa University to do sports business.
The end of a interesting high school career and an entire career, K through 12. You literally just went through 13 years of systemic education, and to catch students fresh in mind of how did this just happen, and tell our listeners that, just to walk us through the last 13 years, like how would you explain it? How was it?
Well, the last few years have been crazy because of COVID and everything that's happened, but just it went by so fast. I can't get over how fast it went. And like my high school career, I can't believe I'm already done. It's crazy that I'm just graduated high school. And now I'm going to be going to Florida and starting college. It's insane to me.
So going back in your studies, what were some of the highlights, even like before high school, that you remember? Is there something that you'll never forget and that sticks out in your mind?
I always remember as a kid, in my elementary school career, I remember all the field trips that we've done, and we used to have pie days. I'll never forget that. All the parents used to bring in pies, and then we used to have the Halloween parties. And I'll never forget that because it was so much fun. I remember in 6th grade, we went to White Pines and I ended up getting the flu, when we were coming home. So that was miserable. But other than that, there was nothing that happened in middle school.
Yeah. I'm with you there. I remember a couple of field trips maybe, but it's interesting. I think it's just everybody shuts down.
Yeah.
And well, it grows, I guess, right? So let's talk a little bit about what kind of student would you say you are, in school? If you had to describe yourself, somebody said, "Hey, Lexi, what kind of student were you in your K through 12 years?" What would that be?
I think I was a very responsible student. I was very organized, and I always had my work done on time. I always tried in school, and if I ever needed help with anything, I always went to my teachers for advice. And I wasn't really a person to ask in front of the class. I always would stay after class or come in a little bit early to ask my teachers advice or ask them questions on stuff. I always felt awkward doing it in front of the class, but if our class that we just had, I didn't care because one, I was a senior, and two, we had a great class and I just felt comfortable in that class. But the other classes, they were bigger, and I don't know. I just like talking to the teachers one-on-one.
Yeah, no, I get that. And that's interesting because I have a lot of people who say that. They're just I don't really want to. There's a lot of comparison, and I think we have a lot of, I would say, uncertainty and maybe not a lot of confidence, or it grows. And like you said, I was a senior, so what the heck, right? So, but let me ask you this. How do you think you became organized? How do you think that, okay, studies are important, getting things done. I have so many procrastinators. I think teachers and parents, I don't know if you have the answer to that question, but how did you start to figure out, look, if I get things done early, it's better?
Yeah, I don't know. I just never understood, and this is not knocking anybody, but I just never understood why you would wait until the last minute or turn your stuff in late and then just have everything pile up. I was just talking to my parents about this the other day. It's better to get stuff done on time and not worry about it and then get points knocked off, or then rather have 50 assignments all due at a certain time, at the end of the school year. I see kids scrambling to turn everything in. I'm just well, I don't have to worry because I got stuff done on time. I think it's all about time management.
I agree 100%. It is. It's very hard, I think, for educators, especially, we're at the end of a year to see students struggling, but hopefully they learn from those struggles, right? So, all right. So I am calling the class of 2022 the pandemic crew. So I have already trademarked that somewhere along the way. But for the bulk of your high school, right in the smack middle of your high school career, we had this pandemic, right? At the end of your sophomore year and then basically through your junior year. Walk us through that, if you can remember what that was like, going from that March 13th day in 2020 all the way through until basically we're, I guess back to normal. I mean, there's no masks and such in our classrooms now.
The end of my sophomore year, I was so happy because I thought we were getting like an extra spring break, and my brother was a senior that year, so he was a little sad, but I was in a class and full of seniors. I was the only sophomore in that class, and there was only like one other girl in that class. And I remember we had to do a presentation coming back that following week. I was terrified because it was all my brother's friends, and it was just like all the popular kids, and I did not want to do that presentation at all. So I was very happy to hear that they canceled school because I never had to end up doing that. But then I realized that my whole like junior year was all messed up, and we had to come back with like 25% and then the 50% and then with the mask on. It was such a weird feeling. And then like senior year, we had to start off with the beginning and the mask, and then they released the mask mandate. So I was just so happy to see everybody's faces again. It felt back to normal.
I'll tell you what, it was interesting for me because coming into a new school in the middle of that pandemic, in the 2021, and then when people were taking off masks and saying hi to me, I was like, wait a minute, who can you do this? I can't see you. It was very interesting. So let me ask you this. So as you transitioned back, how did you transition back? Because some people didn't come in until it was full in. Some people did like the half. Some people did the quarter. Walk us through your transitioning back into the school year, back into the school physically, rather. And, what was that like for you?
Yeah, so I absolutely hated online. So as soon as they said that we could come back to school, I went back to school because I could not take online anymore. My brother was at college. I don't have any other siblings. Both my parents were working full time. So I was home alone all day, and then I had to go straight to work. So it was just, I could not do it anymore. So I wanted to see people. And so I just went back to school as soon as they said that we could go back. And as far as like going back to school, I think it was fine. I just had to get used to like not seeing everybody and all my friends and like with the masks and stuff, but transitioning back was fine.
And obviously I remember the day like where the mask mandate came down, and people still chose to wear them, and it was interesting because not a lot of people in our school, and I think I'm going to give props to Stagg High School for this, because not a lot of people were, in my case anyway, like making fun of people still wearing masks or anything. It was really kind of, all right, well, you have a choice now and you just do it. So that was really cool to see. Were there some of your classes, coming in as a quarter? I think they come in twice a week? Is that what it was at the beginning? Were you like one of the only few students in, or were there classes like where you had a few?
I remember my junior year, it was most of my class. I think the biggest class I had, and it was like a combined class, it was American Studies, so it was English and history together. So that was a bigger class in general. We, I think, had over like 50 some kids in that class if it was in person. So I think that was probably like 12, 15 kids at most in person. And then like my regular classes, I remember in one of my classes, I was the only person who was coming in such a long time, and it was so weird. And like my gym class, there was only like 3 kids coming in, so it was definitely very weird. And then everybody else was just online.
Right, the dots, you got to see the dots.
And then they changed it. We couldn't even have like a profile picture anymore.
Yeah,
I put a profile picture, but I think kids took advantage of it and weren't putting good stuff.
That was kind of disappointing, I'll tell you what, like, because I really did enjoy, like it did as a teacher, I got to see a lot of the personality of a student.
Yeah.
Like some kids, would put, something up there, like who knows, like a SpongeBob or something, and profile picture. I never saw anything bad, but I guess that happened, and that was it. Now you were letters. But so what would you say is, you already said, like I really didn't like online learning, which is a learning piece in its own right. What was in your mind the biggest takeaway lesson that Lexi learned, like through a pandemic and a big change, especially in your formative years like that?
I learned that I have to be like around people and I need to have like support. Even though I'm very independent, I can get my work done on time and stuff. I need people around me and I need to be able to talk to people because I just love talking to people. And it was just so hard, like through the whole pandemic, not having anybody around me. I just had me and my dog all day long.
Not a lot of conversations with the dog, no?
Yeah, no, he would never respond back.
No, I mean, I think that's normal. There was a lot of students who just really missed the social part because actually, people who study high school and schools in general, even colleges, is as you're obviously going to find out at the next level, it's very social. Like that is a very key piece. And it's not all academics. So yeah, I can appreciate that. And now, like, so going from that and what you've learned and coming out of a pandemic and you're now graduated and you actually got to go to graduation, which was very cool. Let's just say, Lexi, you have the opportunity to change a few things in a school system and you can focus on high school or the entire thing. What would be maybe one or two things, or even three if you have them, that you would change?
Yeah, so after taking your class, honestly, I'm going to give you so much credit because ever since I took your class, I realized how much teachers give us busy work and just to do stuff, just to do it. And after your class, you taught us so much stuff that we could use in the real world. And looking at like classes that I took during high school, I will never use any of that, which they could have taught me so much stuff that I could have used in the real world, but instead they just give me busy work just to do it. So because they just don't want to teach, So, I mean, I'm not knocking any teachers down, but it just is frustrating looking back. I could have learned so much stuff. And then instead I was just given busy work.
Do you think there'd be a better way? So, I mean, looking back now, and I think you already know this, is there are some like subjects that could connect better to like academia and reality, and that's a big push of mine. Do you look back and see, okay, maybe we could have done something a little bit different in this maybe core class or science class or whatever that's going to like connect to your thoughts or your interests?
Like, I don't know. I just think that the teachers could have individually like went up to the kids and asked them what they wanted to do. Maybe some kids don't know what they want to do, but the kids that do, maybe they could have tried targeting the class towards like, oh, one day we're going to do this, next day we're going to do this to help everybody try and like, maybe if I wanted to learn about, I don't know, something in my field, maybe it would like bring someone else to be like, oh, that's interesting. I want to see what that's about. And instead of just doing like what the book says and just teaching the class like that, I think we could bring a lot more outsider information and make it a lot more fun and enjoyable for kids and not being able to fall asleep in class and just bored out of our minds.
Part of that, just to be kind of the devil's advocate here, I think like coming out of a pandemic, we were all just tired. We were just like, oh my gosh, we had to redo some things. And I think a lot of educators and students got the short end of the stick there. But I think we can learn from that. What I like that you did, and I'm going to give you props now because I saw, you actually grow into somebody who's going to start to reach out to people and ask questions and to build a network around, your interests and what you want to do. If you were, if you had somebody you knew coming in as a freshman, what would you tell them?
Now, because I'm done with high school and like you said that I started reaching out to people on what I want to do, just not being scared to reach out to people. And it's the first step. It's always the scariest, but after you do it the first time, I think you'll be fine. Like I reached out to a few different people this year that you got me in connection with, and I was terrified the first time, like talking to someone on the phone, and I didn't know what to ask or anything, but I talked to you and I talked to my parents on just some things that I could ask. And after I was done, I got so much information and I just learned so much. So I think reaching out to people and trying to figure out who you are and what you want to do. So, yeah.
Well, Lexi, we look for great things to happen in Tampa with you, and really want to thank you so much for sharing your story and your educational journey on Disrupt Education.
Thank you so much, Mr. H. I appreciate it.
And thank you, everyone who listened. We appreciate you being fans of the Disrupt Education podcast. Until next time, we'll see you on Disrupt Education.